Have you ever had one of those days where you feel it's just, completely and utterly overwhelmed? I mean, the kind of day where it's not just one thing.
Yeah.
It's like your thoughts are racing, your stomach is in knots,
Yeah.
and you just feel like you're lugging around this massive, heavy backpack.
I think everyone knows that feeling, that weight. It's where everything, your body, your emotions, your thoughts, it's all just tangled up in this huge knot of, I can't deal with this.
Exactly. And, my first instinct is just to ignore the backpack, just power through.
Right.
But today, we're actually going to unzip that backpack
Yeah.
and see what's weighing us down. We're doing a deep dive into CBT Made Simple by Nina Josefowitz and David Myran.
And I know what you might be thinking. CBT, isn't that for therapists? And, well, yes, it's a guide for clinicians, but what's so great about their approach is they treat it like building a house. You don't just put up the walls.
We have to lay the foundation first.
You have to lay a very specific foundation.
Right. And the goal here isn't to learn how to do therapy. It's to use those same tools to unpack that black box of our own reactions.
Right.
We want to understand this framework they talk about, the 4-factor model, to figure out why we get anxious or sad.
It's really about demystifying your own experience because the authors make this one point right at the start that kind of changes everything. We think situations cause our feelings, but there's this split-second component. We almost always ignore that. Well, that dictates our entire reality.
The automatic thought.
Precisely, the automatic thought.
Okay, so let's get into this 4-factor model, because this is the tool, right? This is how we unpack that backpack I was talking about.
It is. So imagine you just dump the contents of that heavy backpack out on a table. According to CBT, you're going to find 4 distinct piles of stuff.
Good.
Thoughts, feelings, physical reactions, and behaviors. And this is important because we usually just experience them all at once as one big, messy reaction.
But they're separate things.
They are. And the most crucial distinction, and this was a real light bulb moment for me, it's the difference between the situation and your interpretation.
What actually happened versus what you thought about what happened.
Exactly. That is the cornerstone of all of this. We walk around thinking, the traffic is bad, so I'm frustrated. Or, my boss yelled, so I'm mad.
That seems pretty logical to me. Cause and effect.
It feels that way. But the authors argue there's a step in between. And to prove it, they introduce us to a little black dog named Shady.
Ah, yes. Shady the dog. This example is so perfect because it's so simple.
It is.
So the situation is this. You walk up to a house, a small dog, Shady, starts barking. That's it. That's the objective reality.
Right. A camera would just record a dog barking. But now let's look at 2 different people. First, you've got Nina, one of the authors.
Okay, so Nina sees Shady barking. But her thought, that little sentence in her head, is something like, oh, he's so cute, he's just saying hello.
And because of that thought, what's her feeling?
Happiness, joy.
Right. And her physical reaction might be a smile, and her behavior is to reach down and pat the dog. Simple.
But then her friend Alicia shows up. Same situation, same dog, same barking.
Nothing has changed in the external world. But Alicia has a different history, so her thought is, oh no, he's going to jump on me. Dogs are unpredictable.
And just like that, her whole reality is different. Her feeling is anxiety, fear.
Her physical reaction, her heart rate probably spikes, her muscles get tense.
And her behavior is to back away, maybe cross the street to avoid the dog entirely.
So if the situation caused the feeling, they'd both have to feel the same thing, but they don't.
Because the thought is the boss.
The thought is the boss. Same situation plus a different thought equals a totally different reality.
That's huge. It means we're constantly reacting to the story we're telling ourselves, not the world itself. But, the authors point out that we're actually really bad at telling the difference between a thought and a feeling.
Oh, we're terrible at it. We mix them up all the time. You hear people say, I feel like he doesn't like me.
I say that. I say, I feel like I'm going to fail this.
Right. But in the CBT model, that's not technically a feeling. And it's not just being picky about words. It actually matters. They have a great rule of thumb.
Which is?
Feelings are usually one word. Sad, mad, anxious, happy.
Okay.
If you're using a full sentence like, I am a failure, that's a thought.
That is a very useful hack. One word, feeling. Sentence, thought.
Exactly. Because think about it. You can't really argue with a feeling. If you feel sad, you feel sad. End of story. But a thought is a hypothesis.
It can be tested. It can be true or false.
You can fact check a thought, so you're not just stuck with it.
So we have those 4 piles. Thoughts, feelings, physical reactions like a tight chest or sweating, and behaviors, which is what you do, or I guess what you don't do.
Right. like avoiding something. But these piles, they don't just sit there, they interact. And this is how we get stuck. This is what the authors call the symptom maintenance cycle.
How a bad mood turns into a bad week.
Or a bad year. It's basically a self-fulfilling prophecy. Your behavior loops back and proves your original thought was right.
They use the case study of Alfred, the teenager.
Yes, Alfred. So he's 17, wants to be a mechanic, but he's got this big math test he needs to pass. That's the situation. Math test tomorrow.
Okay, so let's walk through it. His automatic thought isn't, okay, time to study. It's,
this is too hard. I'm going to fail anyway. I'm just not smart enough.
oof. Okay, so that thought creates a feeling. Depression, anxiety.
Lethargy, maybe a headache for a physical reaction. Now here's the critical part. Based on all that, what's his behavior?
He doesn't study. He goes home and plays computer games.
Yeah.
I mean, why bother, right?
Yeah.
And if you're already convinced you'll fail,
Precisely. So what's the consequence?
he fails the test.
He fails the test. But here is the tragic twist. When he gets that failing grade, what does it do to his original thought?
It proves it.
It confirms it. He says, see, I knew it. I knew I wasn't smart enough. He sees the failure as evidence. But he never actually tested the thought. He failed because he didn't study, not because he couldn't do the math.
Wow. It's a closed loop. The thought creates the behavior creates the result, and the result proves the thought was right all along.
And it gets worse, because now he actually is behind on the material for the next test. He has literally created the reality that he was afraid of.
That is really heavy. It makes you wonder how often we're doing that, arranging our lives to prove our own worst fears.
It's a powerful mechanism. And it begs the question, right? Where do these automatic thoughts even come from? Why does Alfred immediately think, I'm going to fail?
This is where we get to the really deep stuff, the foundation of the building, what the authors call core beliefs.
Or schemas. I like to think of it this way. Automatic thoughts are the pop-up ads on your computer screen. Core beliefs are the operating system.
Oh, I like that. They're running in the background, shaping everything.
Everything. The book breaks them down into 3 levels. At the top, you have simple rules. Wear a life jacket, low-stakes stuff.
Right.
Then you get intermediary beliefs. These are often if-then statements. If I'm not perfect, then I will fail. Or, if I don't please everyone, then I'm unlovable.
Okay, those are getting a lot heavier.
They are. And at the very bottom, the bedrock, are the core beliefs. These are absolute fundamental truths we hold about ourselves, about other people, and about the world.
And they use the story of Maria to explain this. She was bullied as a kid in 4th grade and was called stupid.
And at that young, formative age, she internalized it. It became her operating system. So her core belief about herself is, I am unlikable, or I am stupid. And her belief about others is, people are critical.
And once that filter's in place, it changes how you see everything. It's like putting on a pair of sunglasses that only lets the negative light through.
That's a perfect analogy. We are biased to see evidence that supports our beliefs. So let's say Maria gets an email from HR, just a neutral event.
Her automatic thought isn't, I wonder what they need. It's,
I've done something wrong. I'm in trouble.
she interprets ambiguity as a threat because her core belief is telling her she's flawed.
What about a positive thing? Like a neighbor says a friendly hello.
Her core belief about others being critical might translate that into the thought, she's just being polite. She doesn't really mean it. She basically deletes the positive data.
So we filter out anything that contradicts our core beliefs, and we amplify anything that confirms them.
It's a drive for consistency. It often feels safer to be right about being unlikable than to risk believing you're lovable and being proven wrong.
And that explains why just telling someone to think positive is such terrible advice.
You're asking them to fight their entire operating system with a single command. It doesn't work.
So this all comes to life with the 2 clients in the book, Suzanne and Raul. Let's talk about Suzanne. She's a teacher, a mom, and she comes in just saying she's too tired.
And she believes she is a bad mother. That's her core thought driving her distress. But when you look at her situation, she's under a mountain of stress. New school, longer commute, her mother-in-law got sick, so she lost her childcare.
The stressors are very real. But look at her maintenance cycle. Because she thinks I'm a bad mother and she feels exhausted, she stops doing the very things that would help.
She stops seeing her friends, she avoids playgroups.
Right. She tells herself she's too tired. But by isolating herself, she gets more depressed, which makes her...
Or tired. There's a loop again.
There it is. But I love what the therapist in the book does. She stops and highlights Suzanne's strengths.
Yes, this part was so important. Suzanne is still getting up every day, getting her kids ready, going to a demanding job. That's not failure.
That is resilience. The therapy helps her reframe that thought. The evidence shows she is coping under immense pressure. That's a sign of strength, not weakness.
Then we have Raul. He's 58, been at his job for 20 years, and his trigger was a younger guy getting a promotion he wanted.
Raul's case is a perfect example of how one interpretation can spiral. His thought is, this is unfair, I'm not valued here.
Which makes him feel resentful, so he starts to disengage. Procrastinates.
Exactly. He's coming in late, letting projects slide, and of course he ends up getting his first ever poor performance evaluation.
Which just proves his original thought.
Yeah.
See? They're out to get me. They don't value me.
And the cycle deepens. The bad review makes him more anxious, which leads to more procrastination. He's creating the very outcome he fears.
So, okay, we've seen the model, we've seen the cycles. How do you actually begin to change? The book focuses on a couple of key ideas, starting with redefining empathy.
This is such a subtle but important point. We usually think of empathy as feeling what someone else feels, walking in their shoes.
You're sad, so I feel sad with you.
Right. But the authors argue that true effective empathy is about understanding the person's thought, because thoughts are often more private and, frankly, more shameful than feelings.
So it's not enough to ask, how do you feel? You have to ask.
What does this mean to you? Or what's the thought going through your mind right now? If I know you're anxious because you think everyone is judging your shoes, I can actually help you with that specific thought. If I just know you're anxious, all I can do is offer comfort.
That's a huge shift from just validating feelings to investigating the logic behind them. And the other big piece is setting goals. The authors are very clear that most of our goals are bad.
They call them dead person goals.
Dead person goals.
A dead person cannot be anxious. A dead person can stop getting angry. We set these vague goals about what we won't do or how we want to feel.
But what's wrong with wanting to be less stressed? That sounds like a great goal.
It's not measurable. It gives you no direction. They use a road trip analogy. You can't just drive better. You need a destination. You need to know if you're driving to Toronto or Detroit.
So instead of be a better parent.
A good CBT goal would be behavioral and specific. Like, I will not call my teenager if they are only 10 minutes late. I will wait until they are 30 minutes late.
That is incredibly specific.
But it's actionable. You know if you succeeded or not. It directly targets the anxious behavior. Instead of be more assertive, it becomes, I will talk to my boss on Tuesday about getting paid for my overtime.
It takes it from a vague wish into a concrete plan.
And that really is the heart of it, taking that overwhelming cloud of I feel bad and breaking it down into here's the thought, here's what I did, and here is one specific thing I can do differently next time.
Wow. We have really covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
We've unpacked the backpack. We've seen how Alfred and Raul get trapped in these loops.
But if there's one thing to take away, it's that framework, the knowledge that you're not just at the mercy of your feelings. There's a mechanism there, and once you can see it, you can start to tinker with it.
So we want to leave you with a final thought, a challenge based on the homework in the book. The next time you have a strong negative reaction to something, someone cuts you off, you get a blunt email, don't just sit with the feeling.
Stop for a second and try to write down the exact sentence that flashed through your mind. Not, I'm angry, but maybe that person thinks they're more important than me.
Find the thought and then ask yourself the big question. If I change that sentence, does the feeling change?
Well, you might just be surprised by what you find.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll catch you on the next one.